So Devon Archer's interview with lawmakers raising a whole lot of eyebrows. A couple Democrats even publicly criticizing Hunter Biden. One House Democrat even saying, at the very least, the optics are pretty bad.
What we saw from the Archer testimony was a very unflattering portrait of Hunter Biden's judgment and business dealings. If Hunter Biden committed crimes, Hunter Biden should face justice and accountability for those crimes.
Similar comments from another lawmaker on the left.
Let me say something that you never heard a Republican member of Congress say in the 4 years of the Trump administration, which is that if Hunter Biden broke the law, he should be prosecuted. And it is clear that he broke the law with respect to taxes and possibly the ownership of a handgun. He should be held accountable for that.
Joe Concha, Fox News contributor and my friend, also media and columnist, politics columnist for The Messenger. I guess the friend part came before your title. I hope that's okay. All right.
All good.
All right.
Good.
Let me just first ask you regarding these comments. You know, Archer basically says that the president was indeed on these phone calls, in fact, on speakerphone, when they actually indeed did talk about business dealings. The president has maintained from the very beginning he was never on those phone calls. Obviously, somebody's lying here, and it's not looking so good for the president.
No, Julian, it's not just the 20 phone calls that you just talked about. It's the dinners also. Joe Biden in person with Hunter Biden's business dealings and business partners, I should say. And no, they weren't just there to discuss meteorology, right? Sun, clouds, dew point. That doesn't even get you to the ordering stage of any dinner. So obviously, there's not just smoke here. There's a Canadian-sized wildfire here as far as evidence that the president of the United States, while vice president, profited from his son's business dealings to the tune of millions of dollars. Because how else does he afford a multi-million-dollar home on the beach in Rehoboth, Delaware, on a vice president's and senator's salary? How does he afford another multi-million-dollar home in Wilmington? And Democrats look profoundly foolish when they say, well, there's just no evidence here. This is just about Hunter Biden, not Joe Biden. Well, we have phone calls, we have emails, and we have dinners proving otherwise, that Joe Biden sat in on these meetings. And if that's the case, you now have a president that could be compromised by the likes of China, Ukraine, Romania. You could go down the list in terms of where he is compromised. But obviously, most important, Julie, is China. And if that's the case, then this makes Watergate look like a smash and grab.
Republican presidential candidate Doug Burgum criticized ABC News on air. On air. Okay, this is a good one. For ignoring the scandals surrounding Hunter Biden. Let's watch this.
Was Mike Pence right when he certified?
I just listened to 15 minutes of legal debate on this thing, and I'm sure you could run it again 7 by 24. But what I know is that I'm running against Joe Biden, and that's what we're going to be talking about. And of course, not to mention in the last 15 minutes of Hunter Biden or the laptop, Americans out there do concern. There are people on the ground that are not watching these Sunday programs that are saying, why is the DOJ defending Hunter Biden, and why are they attacking President Trump? It does seem political to people.
It is political. The question is it fair?
It's absolutely fair. Look, you could cover the Donald Trump trials. They're going to be coming up. That's obviously a big news story. He's the leading vote getter right now, or at least as far as polls are concerned, for the Republican nomination. He's a former president. But you equally have to cover Joe Biden as well. And to expect, say, ABC This Week with George Stephanopoulos, the former communications director for a former Democratic president, to go down that road first, or at least give it somewhat equal time, obviously is laughable. And we see it not just at ABC, Julie. We see it in the pages of the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC, CBS, NBC, pretending this story does not exist, or when they do cover it, dismiss it, mock it, say there's no there. Elections have consequences, fortunately, and there's a GOP House right now that will continue these hearings, these investigations. Whistleblowers will continue to come forward, and at some point, you probably expect perhaps impeachment is on the table as well. And it's not politically driven if you just look at the evidence objectively and sanely, Julie.
I want to quote Congressman Jake Auchincloss. He's a Democrat. Okay. He criticized Hunter Biden following the House testimony of his former business partner, Archer. And he said this, and I just want to quote him. What we saw from the Archer testimony was a very unflattering portrait of Hunter Biden's judgment and business dealings. Okay. Yes, of course, it was unflattering. That's actually being unkind. Never mind Hunter Biden's poor judgment and unflattering business dealings. Poor judgment is made by the President of the United States, because he has not only proudly backed his son, he said he's very proud of him, but I mean, there are dozens of phone calls that prove that he was much more than just a silent supporter supporting your son. He was very much involved. When are we going to see an investigation come out of this?
Well, I think we're already seeing it already from James Comer and House Oversight. The question is, will we have a special counsel that will come forward? The same kind of special counsel we see with Jack Smith and Donald Trump. You have to think at some point that could happen, except there's a Department of Justice that's run by Merrick Garland, who serves as Joe Biden's wingman, the same way Eric Holder served as Barack Obama's wingman when he was running the Department of Justice. So we will see, but at some point, the dam is going to break on this if it's not already breaking. And this now becomes the two stories of the 2024 election, Julie. That's the shame of all this. We're not going to be talking about issues like inflation and wages and the border and education and crime and foreign policy as it pertains to the war in Ukraine, or in terms of our stance towards China. It will be about Donald Trump's legal problems. The media will make sure of that, and Joe Biden's legal problems. I'll leave you with this poll that just came out. 1/3, this is according to YouGov, 1/3 of American voters now see Joe Biden as honest and trustworthy. That is something that he ran on in 2020, that he was going to restore honesty and normalcy to the White House. He can't run on that anymore, because most Americans say, nope, you can't take the higher moral ground here, because we see right through this.
Yeah. The super PAC allied with former President Trump's campaign today, out with its first ad directly hitting President Biden, and they are distracting their aim at Hunter's business dealings. Watch this.
Your family and their cronies raked in over $17 million from these schemes. And you, Joe, went from being one of the poorest in Congress to a millionaire in the White House. Come on, Joe. All this a coincidence or corruption?
This ad starts airing today. How do you think this is going to pan out?
Well, it is interesting because to this point, Julie, we've seen Donald Trump go after Governor Ron DeSantis and some of his other Republican rivals, not all, certainly. So it seems like the focus was get the nomination. This is now saying, OK, I think I have the nomination, given where the polling is, and now I'm going to start my offensive against Joe Biden, and this is what it's going to look like. So much different than 2020, when Joe Biden basically ran by pleading the Fifth Amendment and running from his basement. Now Joe Biden has to run on a record, and he has to defend himself against this. The thing is, though, he hasn't done a solo press conference on U.S. soil, Julie, in nearly 9 months. You could take a baby to term, full term, in 9 months, and yet he hasn't taken questions from people at the White House, and they're going to continue to try to hide him for as long as possible. But that only gets you so far. I guess the fortunate thing is we're still something like 430 days away from Election Day, and we'll be talking about this every day, I have a feeling, my friend.
What's worse is we actually carry babies for 10 months. It's what you men really don't understand. It's 10 long months. Yeah, that's right. I remember. Wow. I did it for 30 months, essentially. All right, Joe Concha, great to see you. Love you, buddy. Thank you.
Take care. 10 months. Got it. Thanks.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.